All right, all right. Welcome, founders, to the Elevate podcast, where we help you get to the next level. We want to lift you up and elevate you to the next level. Excited to have you here today. We got a really special show with my two co-founders and co-hosts. We got Neil Fairmont and we got Simon Severino. Fellas, come on out. Say hello. How we doing today?
Whoop, whoop.
Everybody, how's it going?
Yeah, this is the show where we kick a lot of ass and have a lot of fun at the same time. Today we got something really special for you, so you're going to want to stay with us all the way to the very end. Why? Because we have an audio video expert, like one of the best in the business, and he's going to share 5 simple tips that you can use to increase your effectiveness with audio and video in 24 hours or less. That's coming at the end of today's show. But first, let's get into the round. We're going to talk about some audio video stuff. And so first of all, Simon, how you doing?
Hey, so cool. We just have a new sport. And we are all very sporty people. And we have one new sport that we all love. It's padel. And I thought it's just rehab tennis, but it's not. It's fun. And we are all in. We are in love with it.
Oh, that's good. It's called pickleball in the United States, if you're wondering out there. Pickleball is one of the fastest growing sports in the world. And I don't know why it's got such a craze. I know that my parents, when they first came out, like they were freaking out and they went and played it a ton. And, you know, they're in their 70s. So that was cool. I went and tried and played it. But like I was a big tennis player and a ping pong player. So like I feel like paddleball or that's right in the middle, like is ping pong and tennis. Right. So anyway, I don't know. How much tennis have you played, Simon?
So 1 hour, 2 hours with friends and with all the kids. And we loved it. But cool. My kids, they have 4 years of tennis. I had 10 years of tennis. So we came prepared.
Yeah, you were ready. Neil, have you ever played?
Yes, so I've been playing for about a year. I was introduced to it by a couple of friends of mine. And like yourself, Sean, I used to play squash many years ago. But injuries aside, I decided to try and take something a little less impactful. And yeah, it's great because you can play with people of all ages. I started playing, as I said, a year ago, played with my wife and some friends and stuff. And there's a group of people that just sort of circle around and enjoy the game of paddle. So it's good. It's good fun.
Yeah, nice. That's amazing. All right, guys. Well, let's get into it today. For you founders listening, thank you for being here today. And of course, if you're catching the replay, don't forget, this is always a conversation. It's not a one-way thing. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them below because we'll call them out and answer them. Specifically, if you have questions around this, we're going to dive into 5 questions. Okay, I got 5 questions that I'm going to ask these guys about audio, video stuff. Specifically, we're going to start with Neil. He's going to give his 2 cents. Simon is then going to chip in, and then we'll go to our lightning round, of which we will deliver those top 5 things that you can do in 24 hours or less to crush it with your audio video. Question number 1. This one's coming to Neil. How does the high quality video impact the perception of professionalism and trust during a sales call?
Yes, that's a very good question. I think when you show up on camera, it's almost like your professional looking video is your new suit and tie. So back in the days when you were doing your in-person meetings, you dress appropriately, you look professional, you go to work with a suit and tie on. Now, in the professional realm of video production and being on conference calls, the look that you give and perceive on video is really your new suit and tie. So if you show up in a cluttered, messy environment, your audio is terrible, your camera is not set correctly, you're halfway cut off or something like that, that basically is where I feel now, the way of high quality video is the perception of you and your brand, and you are representing you accordingly in that environment. So this is the new suit and tie, in my opinion.
I love it. Simon, what would you say? The perception of professionalism with your audio video, like how does it impact a sales call?
I feel that if we don't even think about it, then it's a very good call because we're just, immersed in the conversation. And like Neil says, as soon as I start to think about it, why is that light so strange? Why do I see only his nose? Then we have an issue. Or if they start fumbling around and asking me, where the audio is, then we have an issue. And that's, I would say, for 99% of the listeners. In my case, when I get those sales recordings, what I miss is that they document, that they whiteboard what the other person is saying. I think if you have that, it's a superpower. And that's why we really, really recommend people whiteboarding what the other person is saying, because it's such a difference if you can say, oh, did I hear you correctly? These are your 3 goals. And then that becomes the 3 deliverables into their exact words that you then have in an offer, in a statement of work. That is a superpower in sales. But I think for 99% of people in a normal conversation, if we don't think about the tech, then it's great.
Yeah, and I think you guys both just shared a really great answer from the sales pro perspective. What about when you're talking to a prospect who has a terrible audio video setup? What do you do? Like, as an example, I get really frustrated when somebody books a Zoom call with me and then they take it on their phone and then they're walking around downtown. They can't even pay attention. They don't have earbuds in, and you just know. So, like, from Neil, from your perspective, like when a client or prospective client shows up and they're doing something like that, what's the usual thing that you do?
Well, there's a couple of things. I first of all asked them, could they go to a place where it's less noisy, so they can sit down, if they have to use their phone, then have their phone in front of them, prop it up, so we can have a proper one-to-one conversation. Obviously, we need to have some eye contact there, or it's a little bit meaningless if they're sort of distracted and so on. Or if it's really bad and I can't hear them and they can't hear me very well, I will ask them to rebook. Please go to an environment where you have at least a sit-down camera, your laptop, whatever it might be, and let's rearrange that call, because sometimes it gets so bad that it's meaningless. We're wasting both each other's time, and let's just rebook and get this rescheduled where we have a better environment where we can actually talk to each other. So that's what I typically would do.
Love that. You just have the gumption to ask. I'm going to come to the sales professional, Simon, over here. I'm going to ask him, like, okay, so you are in the situation where you're the sales pro, a prospective client shows up and he's on his phone and it's a terrible connection. And you're just like, what does it take internally to muster up the energy? What would you share with the sales professional to give them the skills and the power to be able to say those things that Neil just said?
The first 3 seconds, I'm disappointed. And I have learned to just breathe into that and relax. Today, I was in New York, and a PR person who wants to work with me walks me through New York. So in the middle of the call, she says, Simon, I will go to Pilates class and I will take you with me. And so she told me, okay, that we are walking through New York. And so I relaxed and I said, okay, let's go with the flow. Let's see what this brings. Audio quality was fine, so it enriched the conversation, actually. Ooh. It was very real because she was meeting people on the street. You know, we were in New York. And so I was seeing her surrounding and where exactly she is. It actually enriched the conversation, but the audio was fine and the video was fine. And I do Pilates too, so we had a lot to talk about, and it was a great conversation. And we have booked a meeting in 2 weeks to continue that conversation. So I relax. The first 3 seconds, I'm annoyed. Like, hey, you are meeting the CEO here on the other side. You don't even take care of a proper room and setting. But I've learned.
So when you're annoyed, let me just stop there. So, like, when you're annoyed, what do you do with your facial body language? Like, talk about that for a second.
Nothing. I can control my face. You see it. I'm like this. And then, but I try to breathe into this and to go, okay. So my internal monologue goes, Simon, relax. Nothing is going to happen in this call except you are going to learn a lot about them. That's it. And then I relax into this inner note, schedule a next meeting, because obviously we need a proper one later. But I will just enjoy this one. Maybe we make it a little bit shorter. But I usually get more information. It's more open because they're walking through the street. So whatever we discuss is actually relevant. It's not fake. It's real. It's happening in their life.
Yeah, I love the answer there. So if I hear you correctly, like, number one, if you're the sales pro and somebody gets on their phone and it just kind of pisses you off, be angry for 3 seconds, breathe into it. That was the first thing I heard you say. And then after the 3 seconds, that's all you get, right? So it's like there's some famous girl who said you get 5 seconds. I think 3 seconds is better. So you get 3 seconds to be angry. You breathe into it. And then as I heard you saying these things, the way I processed it as a founder, I would think like, okay, shift the focus of the outcome of what I'm trying to accomplish as a sales professional, from getting to a place where we might potentially be able to close a deal to no, this is just discovery. I'm going to find out about this person because the connection is so terrible. We're going to then go book another call. Is that kind of like the MO of what you would say?
You said it so well. Yes.
Perfect. Okay, well, that's what to do. So if you guys are hearing this, remember, if somebody gets on the phone, you have 3 seconds permission from Simon to be totally pissed off, but then after that, breathe into it and then shift the focus of the outcome of your call. That's the things to do. Okay, let's go to question number 2 to Neil. Here we go. What are the psychological effects of good versus poor audio quality in conversations, especially in high stakes sales environments?
I think it's like if you're watching a poor YouTube video, for example. I've always believed that if you've got very bad visuals, if it's grainy, you can't actually see the person or whatever you're actually trying to look at. If the audio is decent, then you won't switch off. It's fine. You can get away with it. The reverse of that is the complete opposite. If you have bad audio and you're trying to listen into a conversation, a particularly important call, if it's a sales pitch, if it's something that you're trying to present and people can't hear you, then it's totally distracting. It's very off-putting, and I'm just going to switch off because there's no way that I can fully digest what that person is talking about with the dialogue if their audio is so bad. So for me, the impact for me is, look, this is not going to be good. I'm not going to be able to listen to you. You keep breaking up all the time. Even if the presentation, the video is fine, the audio is not going to do it for me. So you have to have decent audio in order to be able to communicate. For example, if we were talking face to face and I was covering my mouth and you couldn't hear a word I was saying, it's the same thing. So irrespective of whether you can see me clearly or not, the audio is the biggest impact. Audio first, video second. It's the 80-20 rule.
Oh, I like that. Audio first, video second. That's pretty interesting. And so then I do also want to ask you this, Neil, or maybe we can kick this over to Simon. I want to talk about the psychological effects of when a prospect or you as a sales pro are wearing earbuds versus not wearing earbuds. What are your thoughts on that, Neil?
Earbuds are great for reducing any slapback, echo, anything that you would hear from a conversation. We know that we've been on many sales calls and other sort of Zoom presentations whereby I'm hearing myself as I'm talking now because it's coming through the user's speakers at the other side. There are ways that you can reduce that using the software, but I would rather have somebody wearing a pair of headphones who I can hear clearly and I'm not hearing myself than somebody having the Zoom call on a pair of speakers where I can hear myself a couple of seconds later. I don't have an issue with it, but if you can have your headphones behind your back so the wires aren't dangling down. I mean, I've got in-ear headphones now because I have to have them where I am, but the wire is going behind my back, for example. So psychologically, I don't mind seeing that if I can hear them and I'm not hearing myself in the background. But I guess Simon may have other opinions on that.
Yeah, well, I just want to ask Simon from the sales perspective of like, from psychologically looking and seeing a prospect that has earbuds that doesn't have earbuds, or you're wearing earbuds, not wearing earbuds, what does that mean to you? And then what does that mean to the prospect? And what's up? Is that Marvin?
Yes. So hello, everyone. You can ask your questions anytime here. Neil is really competent in this and will help you a lot. So ask all your questions about audio, video. From my side, since I'm not technical, all my questions I ask Neil, by the way. He's the guy that I ask. And so since I'm not technical, for me, the only thing is emotions management, right? Hey, is this important to you or not? That's the main question. And that's why sometimes I'm irritated, like, hey, is this not important? Then why are you using my time? So, but sometimes you see, well, it's even more important. Like today, when I relaxed into it, I go with the flow. Then I realized, hey, this is so important that she cuts out sometimes pre-day because she doesn't want to wait another week. So she does it, she fits it into her tight schedule. And that tells you that it's actually very important. So like you said, I just relax into it and I say, okay, this will take more calls, but it's fine. It's more discovery. On the technical side, I have no idea. a ton of problems every week. I find new problems, and then I WhatsApp Neil. Neil, please help me, and he's super helpful.
Neil.
Super helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing. I would say this, like, being in the sales game for 30 years, the one thing that I know when a prospect has earbuds in their ears, I get more excited because number one, I can also kind of tell what their personality is. Typically, there's a certain personality that'll wear earbuds. But then secondly, I think more importantly for me is I know I have their undivided attention because it stops all the other sounds from going into their ears. And so I actually prefer it when a prospect has earbuds in their ears, I think the cable behind the back is a good idea. Neil, I'll probably start doing that now. Thank you for that tip. But yeah, I actually prefer it when they do have earbuds in because it stops all the outside distractions. So again, let's just keep moving on. I think those are good tips. All right, number 3 to Neil. Can you explain how lighting and framing in a video call can affect the way prospects perceive the sales pro's confidence and authority?
That's a very good question. So again, it's all about the perception of when you're on a call, and how you look and how you show up is really important in terms of, well, what is this guy about, and in terms of how he commands the authority when you're in and talking about a particular subject. So if I'm off at the side, casually leaning to one side, for example, or I'm stood up here and my head is sort of, half cut off or something. I mean, how many times have you seen that? Or you're looking up somebody's nose because they haven't really set anything as you would expect, similar to what I was mentioning before. I think for me, the framing and the positioning of you in the call is so important in terms of just communicating with your team, your prospect, whoever you may have on that particular call. I'm pretty centered now. My eye level is at a certain level, the rule of thirds, going back to camera stuff. But effectively, you can see me clearly. Hopefully, you can hear me clearly. And I'm in a position where if I was talking to you face to face across a boardroom table, it would be the same type of sort of positioning that you would expect. So for me, being in the center of the frame commands authority. It gives people something to look at. There's no distractions around me. I'm the focal point. You want to listen to me, and I'm the one that you're taking notice of.
Oh, I love it. Now, Simon, is there anything that you would add to that?
I was thinking that I look a lot about what's in the room. So we talked about their position in the middle. I really look at the background. So, for example, I have a USM furniture here. And I'm coaching a ton of financial advisors. A financial advisor has to convey credibility, how they use their own money, how they spend their own money. You see it in their furniture. And then are they, family people, family oriented or not? So what will you see on the wall? Will you see their mentors? Will you see their kids, their family in portraits? And so that actually makes a difference. And you might say it's a slight difference, but it's actually, it works emotionally for the decision of their buyers. They are thinking, should I give these people my money or not? And we're getting some questions. Let's check some questions in here. Hi, I'm currently developing a better version of a not known existing product. When do I start on preparing my sales channels? Should I wait for my product to be fully done? I love this. Should I already release the idea and what the product is, or keep it hidden? Guys, can I start already answering this?
You're already on it, man.
I have a feeling. So I love this question. And in really my take is build in public. Start already building it. I see you a lot on X, Marin Vestiert. So I know that you are great with X. This is where you should build it in public. You can even add the hashtag build in public. I don't think that matters a lot, but I would immediately build it in public. Now, the old school says, no, don't tell anybody. Go in monk mode, do your stuff in the dark, and then come out with the ta-da. Turns out there is no ta-da. So you want actually a lot of feedback very, very early. So I would start already with the concept, making a screenshot of that concept and sharing the screenshot. Hey guys, this is my concept. Would you go with version A or B? Screenshot already of the logo. Should I name it A or B? Involve the people around you as much as possible, as early as possible, because what can go wrong? Nothing, actually. So what can go well? I mean, the biggest risk is, well, but they can take my idea and run with it. So yes, everybody has an idea. Doesn't matter. Ideas don't change the world. If I have the idea of building a rocket, I can't do anything to Elon Musk. Why? Because he is executing every day on it. So ideas are just commodities. Execution, it makes the difference. So you will win if you execute frequently enough. And to execute frequently enough, every day a little bit, you need motivation. Where does that motivation come from? From the feedback that you get. You will have me and others comment on that and say, oh, go with B. And by the way, have you thought about this? Oh, and you should meet Neil because Neil can help you with that. And so this is the little flywheels that happen when you build in public. That's what you need. The only risk is somebody runs with it and executes better, but that's a tiny risk compared to the benefits of getting early feedback, of finding what works, because let's be honest, you will need hundreds and thousands of small iterations before anything hits. And when it hits, you want to feel it early. Then you know, okay, oh, this works. Let's do more of that. But I'm also curious what Sean says.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think your process is great. So, Marin, hopefully that was helpful for you. When I was in business school in college, I remember I went to all these professors, and I was like, because I was looking for a professor that actually had real world experience, and there was only one, right? And so then I went up to him and I was asking him, and his answer was totally counterintuitive to what all the other business professors had told me. They all told me, build the widget, then sell it. This professor, who'd actually made a bunch of money in a real business, said, sell the widget first, then build it second. And then that was repeated as I went into my online journey in 2016, and I got into an inner circle with Russell Brunson. I love Russell. He's a dear friend of mine, his family. He says to me, because we were building something, he's like, dude, stop that, what you're doing, and go try to sell that idea. So conceptually, whatever you're trying to sell, Marin, like put it on a piece of paper and see if you sell. Example, like when we ran our mastermind, we didn't know what was going to be in our mastermind. We didn't even know what the categories were going to be week to week that we were going to be teaching, but we built a curriculum that we thought was the right thing. We got on the phone. We said, hey, we got this mastermind. This is what we're going to cover. And then people bought it or they didn't. And then I would ask, like, what Simon was saying is like, hey, like, which of these topics is good or bad? Right? Oh, that one sucks. That one sucks. And then you'll get some feedback there. But then when you do a mastermind, so we actually sold the mastermind before we built anything. And that's my advice to you is sell the widget, then build it. That's the idea, right? That's what I would say there. Yeah.
Neil,
okay, cool.
What do you say?
Yeah, Neil.
Well, I'm part of many sort of beta tester groups. So for when software comes out, they will provide a small group of people with these iterations of the software or whatever it might be, the widget, the app once they've done it, and allow that feedback from the community who's actually going to be buying it in the first place to shape and mold the product, identifying bugs, identifying features, things that they may have missed. So for me, being part of a group that can help shape and form a particular product that I know I'm gonna buy is fantastic. So I think get the product out there, as you guys have said, float the ideas, make sure there's a market for it, and then if you are going into doing some testing, get a small community of people to be the beta tester for you. They'll iron out all the problems, ask all the questions, provide you with the feedback, and shape that product to exactly how it's going to be before it hits general availability for all the people to buy.
My mentor was a European leadership author, right? Became later the #1 guru. But many people were writing about leadership. Why did his books become the #1 book? I saw him in the process of that. So he said, all right, I have a concept, a model about how leadership can be learned. His mentor, by the way, was Peter Drucker. So he came with something. But then he had to break it down into what does it mean for a top executives in Europe. And so he said, these are my 10 chapters of the book. And he did it live as a seminar, like as a live workshop in St. Gallen, Switzerland. And we were there, and he had a binder. Each chapter had a binder. All the questions that he got, like we are getting now the comments, all the questions that he got, he answered and then added that to the binder. So week by week, I saw him moving stuff around in that binder. And after 10 months, the binder wasn't moving anymore because he wasn't getting any questions or remarks that weren't already in the binder. This is when he gave it to the publisher and said, the book is ready. Now you can print it. And that is a great process. So whatever I would build it in public in terms of workshops, do an online event, do it with the people as a service. And then when nothing changes anymore, now it's ready. And then you can make it a product or a SaaS or a software or a book or a product. Now it's ready.
Perfect. I love that. I think that, again, like it kind of encapsulates everything that we're talking about. Let's move on to the next question. So this one's for Neil. Neil, this is going to be kind of part one, part two. Oh, Martin says, thanks for this great advice. I'm scared to announce the idea and people are going to buy the already existing product. Simon, how would you answer that? What would you say just to help Martin here?
How likely is it that there is no product at all in that field? For everything, there is kind of a product, right? The product doesn't make the difference. What is the difference? There probably, for whatever you are building, there is probably a product out there. And hopefully so, because that means there is a market. So it's better to build something where there is a product already, because then there is a market. Now, the second thing is, will they buy from that product or from you? What makes the difference? The difference is credibility. Do I trust you to go deeper and to care more about what I need to solve, or that product, that person behind that product? So it's really about credibility. And how do you build credibility? It's testimonials, it's being there, it's caring about them. If you don't have testimonials, then you serve your first 5 people for free until they become your testimonial. So it's really caring. You can start a Discord group and have your first 5 users who come in for free and really deliver and over-deliver, and they become your first 5 testimonials. So the obstacle, which is I'm new, you can turn it into a superpower, which is I care much more. I will be really there with you step by step. And if you do this with these 5 people, probably that existing product doesn't have the time to do it in that depth, in that detail. So you can turn it into a superpower. You create your first 5 video testimonials, and then you take it from there.
Perfect. Hopefully that's helpful, Marna. Thank you for the questions. Keep asking. By the way, if you're watching, you have questions, just drop them in the comments below. We'll call them out and answer them as we go. That's what this show is all about, how to elevate you to the next level. That's what we do here. Okay, question 4 to Neil. Why is it important to match the quality of audio and video to the expectations of the person you're trying to sell to?
Do you mean in terms of whether your audio is good and your video is good in terms of the level of the person that you're presenting? So if it's an executive versus somebody on the street, you mean?
Exactly.
I think it goes back to what we said before. I mean, with Zoom being ubiquitous and things like that now, then there's almost an expectation that people can just show up on Zoom. They can have the blurry background. They can have clutter in the environment and things like that. And it's almost become acceptable for sort of Teams calls and day-to-day sort of calls and so on. But I think if you're presenting at a higher level, if you are in a boardroom, for example, and that person is a sort of a very high executive, then I believe you should be showing up to the best of your ability with regards to audio and video quality. I think people will have a poor perception of you if you, as we mentioned before, turn up just on your phone, your headphones showing, you're in the middle of a coffee shop, it's noisy. Do you actually care about your brand and how you present yourself? And if you do, then the level of video quality and audio associated with you is representative of you as a brand. So if you're presenting to somebody at a very high level, there's an expectation there, I feel, that that person who's showing up on video should present well, should articulate well, should look good, and should sound good. Otherwise, I think you will just get a poor perception of what this person is trying to portray if your video and audio quality isn't very good. So I think it has to match the level of person that you're trying to attract. For example, if somebody's coming to me on a call and asking me for video advice, what if I showed up in the middle of a coffee shop in Starbucks? It's noisy, they can't see me very well. They're not going to buy any services from me if I don't look and sound as I'm trying to portray my services. So I think the same applies to if you're presenting to a much higher level. Match that level of person, and in fact, just do the best you can in terms of audio and video, no matter who you're presenting, because that is representative of you and your brand.
The simple way to put it, and I'll go over to Simon for some thoughts on that one, is if you don't, you'll lose the deal, period. Right?
Yeah.
Simon, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm thinking, what is the minimum amount of professionalism that you need in each situation, right? I have stopped commuting so that I can be in one room and be professional. Because when you're on the road all the time, you feel super busy, but are you really professional? Are you really present for the people that need you in the moment that need you? Can you really take on opportunities when they pop up? So I've taken bigger decisions in order to make sure that I am here and I can control the setting, because I need a level of professionalism to deliver. So that's it.
The other one I'll say is this one is like a self-inflicting item. If for all those founders out there that have a very high level of empathy in their bodies, if you show up in a poor environment and it doesn't match your potential client or your client, like I had a call 2 days ago with a guy, Bobby, and he was in a very desperate place. And if I hadn't been in a very quiet room where I had my thinking cap on and could actually really serve him at a level that he deserved, I feel like garbage after that call, because I'm like, oh my God, this guy was hurting. He needed my help and I couldn't help him because my audio and video was just crappy. And so that's the one thing that I would always say, like, Simon, you stopped traveling. I also did the same thing, right? So I am always in either usually one of two places that have very good internet, that have very quiet surroundings, that I can actually be present during the call. And I also think it helps with like just the mindset of being able to be 100% focused, because when a prospect feels like you're totally in tune with them and you're in line and you're focused right here, they love you, they're going to buy from you, they trust you, and they'll continue to bring referrals to you, right? Because it's not always about just the person you're selling. It's about the person and their network of how you can not only serve them, but who else they care about that you can also help. And that's really what it comes down to. So let's move into the last question here, and then we'll jump into the lightning round, because I know Neil's got to jump a little bit early here today. The last question before we jump into the lightning round is this. Neil, what are some common mistakes that people make with their audio video setup that could hurt their chances of closing a deal on Zoom?
We've talked about a couple. First one, for example, is if you're working on a laptop and you're hunched over and you're looking down all the time, either you're concentrating on something else, then you are not engaged with that person. You're not making eye contact. Your camera is looking up your nose. So that's one of a big no-no, that the fact that it appears to be dismissive. You are distracted, or if I'm looking away right now and I'm talking to you, but I'm not really engaged with you, that is a real turn-off for me. That's something that sort of puts me right off. So make sure that at least you have some maintain of eye contact, and we'll talk about some tips on how to do that later. That's one thing. As I mentioned, the distractions, the clutter in the background. I mean, maybe I'm looking, like Simon mentioned, what has that guy got behind him? What is that? I'm not concentrating on the person, because either the video is bad or all I can see basically is his background. And then from a lighting perspective, I've seen many calls, and I've been on many calls where the person is backlit. That means the light is behind them. So all I see is a big whiteout of their image, and they are in silhouette. I can't focus on that person's face. It's really going to hurt my ability to see your facial expressions, to communicate effectively with you, if I can't see your face. So there's a ton of things that you can do to make that not the case, but those sort of two or three things, distraction, looking away, not being able to see you, maintaining eye contact, those are the big sort of deals for me that would break my communication and the ability to sort of focus and concentrate on that person.
Simon, I want to ask you one very, very important question because I just started training one of my sales guys on this specific thing here. And what Neil said, I think, is so hyper valuable. When we're on Zoom, we got to be here. We got to be in the camera. We got to be looking at the person. We have to be what Neil said is be engaged, right? How do you train yourself or a sales person to be engaged and looking into that camera instead of looking around, looking down?
We do weekly sales calls with the teams that we coach and with the teams that we train. And whenever they onboard a new salesperson, we do an intense month with them, which has daily check-ins, and we get their sales recordings. And every week we look at one or two sales recording, usually one that went well, one that didn't go well, and from there we work on all these things. And if you just look at this session here, I started by telling that when I have a problem, I call Neil, right? So something in my subconscious says Neil is trustable, credible, professional. Now, how did he create that? Well, yes, in the beginning when we met, he was referred. So he was recommended as somebody who is that. But then you need an experience, right? And if you look at just these sessions that we do, he comes with this background, with this focus, and his voice, right? His voice is perfect in terms of the tone, the level. He even is considerate intentionally speaking slower or speaking faster. So he cares about all these details. And what happens subconsciously, emotionally, is this guy is safe. I trust this guy. So then you forget about it after the call, right? But then you have something and you have a tech problem. And I immediately think Neil, because it's saved as this is the person, what would they do? This is the person I'm going to ask. This is the person that's safe to work on this with. And this is what matters in sales. And 80% of them is voice and 20% is the rest. According to deep psychology, 20% is voice. So microphone alone makes a huge difference. And because I work with high-ticket B2B people, I also like to incorporate this whiteboard element. How can you take notes, make notes in real time? Because that also creates a safe space. And buying is always a risk situation for the buyer. What if I take the wrong decision? What if I waste money? What if I waste time? What if I lose reputation? And those are big emotions, big risks. So whatever we can do to de-risk that, is it your voice? Is it your setting? Is it your whiteboarding? Is it the depth of your knowledge in that field, your credibility? Those things create a safer environment and in the end, a higher win rate.
Perfect. And that's going to wrap up everything until our lightning round, which I'm really excited about now. So we're moving to that. So thank you guys for listening so far. This is the fun part. This is where you get all the actionable takeaways. Today, we're going to drop it over to Neil. Our lightning round is going to consist of the top 5 things that a founder can do in order to increase their AV setup in 24 hours or less. Neil, give us all 5. Then Simon's going to give us a little background, and then I might just add 1 or 2 things, and then we'll close it up and share what we're doing next week.
All right. Well, real quick. So maintain eye level with your camera. So instead of having your laptop down here, if you're using it, put it on a laptop stand. Or if you haven't got a laptop stand, because it's 24 hours, throw it on a box, throw it on some books. So you maintain the eye level. And that's one really quick tip. If you are using natural lighting, i.e. it's in a window in your house, don't have the window behind you. Turn it around, have the light facing you and have the camera facing you there. That's another top tip. Invest or at least use something that's different than your built-in microphone on your MacBook or whatever laptop that you're using. I think Sean might be using the built-in microphone on his headphones. That is a much better headphone because it's better than the one on your Mac because it's closer to your mouth. So that's another tip. Number 3. Number 4, avoid using these built-in AI face softening enhancement tools that you see on Zoom. I see some people sometimes turn this slider up to 100%. It makes their face look waxy and terrible. Forget about that. And the last tip is and then maybe that's 4 or 5. Get rid of all the clutter in your background. If you want to show up professional on camera, then make sure people aren't distracted by the things behind you and having all the clutter. And sorry, tip number 5, internet. Get people to stop gaming and watching Netflix when you're on a Zoom call, because the worst thing that can happen is Zoom will degrade your quality and everybody's gaming and watching Netflix, but everybody can't see or hear you properly because all the internet bandwidth has been taken by Tiger King. That's my top 5
Bang,
tips.
that was so fast. And you even gave us 6 as a bonus one. I'm going to repeat them. Simon, I want you to talk about which one's your favorite or big aha moments that everyone has. So the first one he said is maintain eye level. Then he said face the light. Don't have it behind you. Next one is get a different mic. Yeah, I actually have Audio Technica
Okay,
that
cool.
I do use as well. It just kind of sits down here. And then the next one is the built-in AI enhancement. Don't use it. And number 5 was reduce all the clutter. And then the 6th bonus tip was have good internet. Simon, which is your favorite and why?
I love them all. And in the end, it's really be as present as possible and prepare. So preparing means, I think a good conversation is like when you meet a friend and you are so immersed into the conversation that everything else goes away, right? So whatever stands in the way, if you see that, that light stands in the way, start with the light. The bottleneck is the light. If you think that not having the ability to whiteboard stands in the way, solve that in that week. And whatever you do, call Neil. You find him, Neil Fairmont. What's your handle on X, Neil?
It's just at Neil Fairmont. It's just my name. Everywhere's my name. You search for my name, you'll find it.
And he has also a ton of great content.
We'll drop that in the show notes for you founders listening to this, so that if you need to get help with your audio video tech, like Neil's the guy. There's only one guy and his name is Neil. So go see him. Anyway, back to you, Simon.
He has also great content on YouTube. He goes live a lot. He was live a full week now. There's a lot of great content. And if you can grab him, grab him. He's amazing. Every time I have an hour with him, I learn a lot.
That's
Thank
it.
you very much.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap it up for us this week. So thankful for you all being here again. This is the Elevate podcast, where we lift founders up to the next level in their business, in their personal life, in everything that they do. Next week, we got a really hot topic coming out. I'm so excited about this one, guys. We're going to talk about how to create video DMs, short or long, that turn cold leads into dream clients. So if you've ever thought about using little video DMs, next week's going to be your session. We'll be showing up next week, Wednesday, same time, same place, with the same badass characters. Love you. Thank you so much for being here.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue.